Well, hi, and welcome to Success, Secrets, and Stories. This is our special podcast and YouTube channel for author to author. And it's a chance for me to actually have an opportunity to talk to other authors. Today, I'd like to introduce Dan DeBose, and he has written a very interesting book. I think you can see that in the background.
Yes,
It's
you
Time
can.
Before Time. Yeah. So, Dan, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background and how this book was something that you really wanted to get into and write about?
Okay, John, I'll start at the beginning, so to speak. I graduated from Silsbee High School in Deep East, Texas. It's a town close to Beaumont. And after high school, I went to Texas A&M University and spent 4 wonderful years there in College Station. And then after I graduated from A&M, I was commissioned as second lieutenant in the Air Force and spent 8 pretty good years in the Air Force. And I ended up being a contracting officer and ended up spending some time in the reserves and ended up rifting out of the service as a captain. And uh, kind of that kind of tells me about me a little bit. And I went into the construction business after that. And for the last 40 years, 45 years, I've been in the construction business, and I worked my way up to executive vice president of a national corporation called Yates Construction, and I was executive vice president in charge of all cost and contractual work. And I just retired from that about a year and a half ago, and I got an interesting story for you. And graduated from high school in 1969 and went immediately into A&M. And at A&M is a military school, and just a little aside, there was 12,000 boys in school in 1969, 400 girls. So
That's an interesting.
we had an interesting time going to Austin and seeing the University of Texas and going to Waco, Baylor, up to Dallas and different places. But it was an interesting time. And then, of course, during that time, uh, after I graduated and got in the Air Force and then got out of the Air Force, I went in the construction business and was, of course, in an office. I was all the time. So in the deep South, you have to keep your hair short. And so in 1969, when I graduated, everybody had long hair, and my father-in-law had a barber shop, which he almost went broke. Had a barber shop, but anyway, I've been wanting to grow my hair since 1969, and finally, a year and a half ago, when I retired, I decided it was time to make an experiment out of it, and so I've let it grow for this amount of time, and I'm not sure about it yet, but my wife likes it, and some
Well,
of my
that's
friends like it, and I don't know, I might keep it a while. We'll see, but I was kind of worried about it a little bit on the interview because I hadn't had long hair very long, and my son said, "Dad, you're not a businessman no more. You're an eccentric author, so just chill out about your hair. That's you." So
I
anyway,
like that.
that's a
I
little
like that.
that's a little aside about me and my background and stuff like that. Now, I've been kind of writing short stories. I wrote some science fiction short stories in high school as assignments, and I've been interested in it, writing different short stories, different things for several years. And of course, during the last 40 years or so, I hadn't had much time to do any writing. So when I retired, I decided it was time to write a book, and uh, so that's what we're talking about today is a book I wrote. So
Yeah, and I see that you did it also with another author, your son.
yes, my son co-authored the book with me, and he's the smart one of the family,
Okay,
and he understands computers and understands all the stuff we deal with today. And he was very instrumental in furnishing ideas as well as correcting my language. And as you'll find out during this interview, I have a deep East Texas accent. My language is East Texas language also.
that's
But
awesome.
anyway, he left a lot of my language in the book, but he corrected a lot of it, and he edited a lot of it, and he rearranged I'd write a chapter and then write something else. And he said, Dad, this one goes in the front of this one. And so he rearranged his stuff. And we had a good year's worth of work together on this thing. And really enjoyed working with him. And almost like we established a new relationship with each other during
Oh,
this period
awesome.
of time. And we've always been close, but this was something we shared and we're both proud of, and he's very proud of, and he's got his name on the book as well as me. So
That's a fun thing to share. I mean,
it
I think
was.
one of the things that I've enjoyed with a little bit, the one book that I've written so far, sharing it with my kids. It's a lot of fun. That was
One of the things he told me when we were finishing it and trying to figure out how to get it published and everything, he said, Dad, we got to get it published and we got to get it on the market. He said, if nothing else, uh, when Isaac's my 8-year-old grandson. He said when he's old enough to know, he'll know you wrote a book, and he'll see it on the shelf. And he said
nice. Yeah.
this is for them as well as us. And of course, speaking of Isaac, some of the things in the book came from his language, the 8-year-old language and stuff.
Wow.
Different things such as calling uh, calling a rifle a lead chunker. So
Okay.
you know, in the future, we're dealing with laser rifles. We're dealing with all kinds of things. So when the
Right.
guy goes back in the past, he's looking at lead launchers. And so that's kind of a funny thing. But that was his words. He come
Was
up
that
with
awesome?
that.
That's awesome.
So
I like
anyway,
that's I've used elements of my background too. So it is what makes the story, and it personalizes the story.
yes,
So you did something in terms of writing about the future and the past
yes,
all at the same time. And you covered that by working with time travel at the same time.
yes.
Very,
Well,
very interesting applications of science.
well, it came about by basically because you know I think you got to be stupid to think this world's 5 billion years old and there hadn't been people on it before. It's
Mhm.
to the last 10, 15,000 years. I mean, that just don't make any sense to me. It had not made any sense to me forever. And uh, another little aside, my father was a Baptist preacher before he passed on, and so we had some very interesting conversations about how the world came about, and how people came on the world, the creation, and so on and so forth. And I've probably was a pain in his side for most of my life because I argued with him about this, and I always had it in the back of my mind that I was going to someday sit down and write a story about it. And what come to mind was uh, just the interactions with everybody as far as what the theories of ancient aliens were and the past civilizations. And I said, how do we find this out? I said, well, somebody needs to invent a time machine. And so I come up with this genius professor that was way ahead of his all his peers and everything else, and he had theories about past civilizations that they'd come and gone in the world, and all his peers basically uh, thought he was an idiot, and mainstream scientists didn't like what he said, and he was almost kicked out of universities and everything else. And you got to realize he was one of the smartest people in the world, and he decided to heck with everybody else. I'll just build me a time machine and go back and see. So that's what he did. He built him a time machine, and then he hired himself a bodyguard. It's not really a bodyguard, but this story is set in the future. So there's a Earth and Earth space forces, and there's forces that fight in space and everything else. And this big guy, 6'8", named the Chantry, was had been in the special forces since he was 16 years old, and he was retiring. So Emerson Whitmore hired him to go along, ride along with him in case he got in trouble and get him out of trouble. So that's the beginning of things and their adventures, and they had had a lot of interaction with ancient civilizations. He figured out what happened to the world in the first place, where a disastrous uh, meteorite hit the Earth 300 million years ago and just turned it upside down and destroyed all the life on Earth. But before that, there was a very good civilization, very advanced civilization that lived on the Earth, and they had space travel. They figured out how to go from star system to star system. Figured out how to go 400 million light years away, and keep it where people were still the same when they traveled that far. Anyway, they had to evacuate the Earth, and they went off into the Pleiades and the Orion star systems and several other star systems and populated those star systems with the people from Earth and got as many off the Earth as they could at that time. And then these big meteorites hit and destroyed the Earth and partially destroyed Mars and everything else when they were doing that. And
we got to say something for people to read. It's really interesting how the book then moves on, and
yes, it does.
and then talks about the other nations and the development of the different cultures, and it's
Yes,
very
it does.
a very good book. So I don't want to ruin. You
No,
have to read this book. This is a good book.
well,
Tell me about a little bit about the books or the authors of science fiction that you found interesting
oh,
that kind of helped you with this process.
well, I'm sure I'm like most people, and the major people in science fiction genre uh, is around forever. One of them's H.G. Wells, and of course the
Right.
Time Machine, and that's one of the first books I ever read, and that has stuck with me. Although I criticized him in a book report I wrote in high school, I criticized him because I didn't think some of his theories were realistic. And what I've tried to do in my book is keep it realistic that this could probably happen,
Right.
and tried as much as possible. But Jules Verne's another one, The Journey to the Center of the Earth, was one of my favorite stories. There's no doubt about it. Uh, you know, Arthur Clarke and the Space Odyssey, and I tell you what, Robert Heinlein, who wrote Starship Troopers, believe it or not, that's an off-center movie. It's weird, but it's one of my favorite movies.
Okay.
And
Sure.
just them running into the alien situation of the ants that they were trying to do. And of course, Gene, you can't mention authors without mentioning Gene Roddenberry. I
Right.
mean,
Right.
gosh, he's the basis of Star Trek and all the Star Trek adventures. Uh, I even think he was the influence for Star Wars. I mean, he had to be.
Yeah.
And there's another author that's not very well known that I really liked in our literature class in high school. The lady in charge of it made us read and do a report on this book, and it's called The Star Makers from Olaf Stapleton. It was a
Oh,
1937 book called Star Makers, and it had also a great influence on me because this guy went into space and went into all different planets and different races and everything else, and eventually got absorbed by space, I guess, and becomes part of it. But his moving around from place to place in the galaxy
right.
kind of had me doing the same thing. And so, anyway, that's some of my favorite guys, and
That's awesome. That's awesome.
I even watch Ancient Aliens quite a bit, and I think they screw up a lot sometimes too, but I think they're on track with a lot of stuff because
I
it's
watch. I'm a science fiction fan myself, so I
yeah,
some of that I
okay.
actually like some of the theories that go with ancient uh, uh,
Well,
astronauts
the
and some of
book
those
uncovers a
concepts.
lot, talks about a lot of those theories and throws them into the book, and what these guys find when they're floating through time and through the different periods of time, from 300 million years ago till present day almost. So anyway, and during the middle of the book, I got to put this part in.
Sure.
Uh, Emerson Whitmore and John Chantry were traveling back in time and running around in time, and they run into people from the Orion system that were the original colonists of Earth that had been off of Earth for this amount of time, and they were trying to come back and recolonize Earth. And I think one of my pet theories is it's been us all along. It ain't aliens from outer space coming to colonize or training
Yeah.
Earth people. It's us that has left Earth and come back and recolonized it, and showed showed the people how to progress in technology and everything else. So they went through the time periods of discovering all this, and they run into these people from the Orion system who also had invented time travel, and it was a very secret type deal, and they were very alarmed that Whitmore had invented this time machine, and they were worried about some alien race capturing it and changing the whole history of Earth, and you and me not being sitting to be able to sit here no more because they could change everything. So he basically started and he took them with him, and they went on some adventures that's unbelievable, where they had to save a an alien race throwed a planet at Earth, and they had to save the Earth from that. And then they had some kidnapped officials from the Orion system space forces that they had to uh, save, and they did all this by working with these people from the Orion system, and it turns into quite a bit of adventures and uh, kind of edge of the seat type stuff. And actually, the book's got some parts that I thought were a little too bloody in it, but
Jeez.
anyway, not today's the way scary movies are made today and the way space
Right.
movies are made today. It's not too much, but anyway, it's quite an adventure, and it basically had all been sitting in my head for 40 years, and
That's awesome.
it finally
Yeah.
started coming out. And I started the sequel to the book, and about halfway through it, and uh, just kind of I've rewrote it 3 times already, and I didn't do that on the first one. The first
Sure.
one I
Sure.
wrote, and that was it. Now I'm redoing things, and the question, and that's another thing my son's telling me. He said, "Quit doing that, just write it,
Just keep writing. Yeah.
just
Keep
write it,
writing.
and I'll take care of the part that needs to be taken care of." So anyway,
That's awesome. So
so
that's a nice partnership. That's
yeah, it is.
excellent.
If work didn't get in the way, we'd do a lot more of this probably.
Sure. Exactly. And both of us are trying to do something now that we have the freedom to do something.
That
So
you're exactly right, John. Exactly
yeah.
right. And I've never had the freedom to do it before. You never had the freedom to, take this creativity you got and change it into something that you're having fun with here. But
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm looking forward to basically working with you and
Awesome.
keeping the conversation going on.
I would love to do that. I found the book very interesting. I find our conversation actually more interesting. The part that I think is a shared feeling is that you want to do something with the time, and time before time is such an interesting kind of exercise on what you wanted to do with your writing skills, and you're trying to make probably the most important thing in our lives, especially when you're at this point. Time is the most precious gift you have.
Yes.
And you've done a wonderful job of talking about the importance of time as well as a science fiction story. It's also the respect of time, the impact of time, and the precious gift of time.
Well, I appreciate that. I've not really ever thought about it in that exactly like that, but you're exactly right. Exactly right.
Yeah.
So
I So is this the cove that you create in? Is this the author's cave that you go to and you
yeah,
create in
yeah,
that?
it's
Sure.
my
This is
office in
mine.
my
This is
house.
my cave.
It's my cave in my house.
Sure.
Still got some of my old mementos up there a backhoe I got when I was 5 years old, and different things sitting on the shelves, and uh, it's actually where I go to get away from everything in the house, so to speak.
Sure, sure.
And my wife's sending me here more and more these days.
I think I have the same suggestions at
There
time.
you go.
Yes.
And John, one of the things I want to say about the book is there's a couple of people that I patterned some people after in the book. Uh, the main one is Colonel Gunho Higgs, who is the pilot that Whitmore hired after he redid his time machine and made a plane into a time machine, which is another story in itself. I'll let you read the book to see that. But
Sure.
anyway, uh, Gunho Higgs was my company commander at Texas A&M in 1969 through 1973. He was commissioned as a second lieutenant in the Air Force also. He went on to fly F-15s, F-16s, F-18s, F-22s. His favorite plane was the A-10 Warthog. He went through several combat things. He went to Top Gun twice in two different airplanes.
Wow.
He's extremely accomplished pilot, and he's been one of my heroes ever since I was in college. And I in the mid '80s, I went and got my pilot's license just to tell him I could get a pilot's license. So,
Wow.
but he was flying all these things for the United States, and he's been diagnosed with dementia
Mm.
over the last year or so. And it's because of riding them jet planes and get banged around in them jet planes, his whole life. And it's a sad thing when I found that a lot of pilots, ex-pilots, have that problem. It's not
Well,
just football players that have that problem. It's a lot of ex-pilots. And so I keep in touch with him quite a bit, and he just got the biggest kick out of this book. You wouldn't believe. He actually called me after he listened to it, and he can't really. He listened to it on the audio book. We finally got it
sure.
on the audio book, and he listened to it.
Excellent.
And he called me one day and he said, "Dan, I just finished the fight in the canyon, the dog fight in the canyon. You can't make planes do that." And I said, "Yes, you can. It's
Sure,
science.
you can. I wrote it.
I make you do anything I want to." He just laughed. And anyway, and there's some other characters in the book that's based on my son's friends in high school, where they enter into the book, and some of their relations with each other enter into the book. And of course,
Awesome.
they know who it is and why the characters are doing what they're doing. But
Sure.
anybody that's just reading it wouldn't know them, but they got a big kick out of it. And
And character development is one of the better elements of writing a good book. And you've developed not only your core
so,
characters, but also your support characters.
uh, are you familiar with a TV show from the '60s and early '70s called Mr. Ed?
Oh, sure.
Well, about the third chapter in the book, one of my favorite parts of the book is when Chantry, when after Chantry warns there fixed to be a stagecoach hold up, and of course he's been chastised by Whitmore not to change the past at all, and but anyway he warns stagecoach drivers they're going back into the 1800s, and it's their first trip, just the experimental trip, and he goes back into the 1800s, and they're fixed to be a robbery, but he's got to tell these people there's fixed to be a robberies, so he gets behind a horse and a young man and tells him about it, and at the end, at the last sentence of the chapter, it says, I got to go back and talk to Wilbur." And you remember Wilbur was Mr. Ed's
Sure.
master.
The owner.
He said, "I got to go back and talk to Wilbur," and that was his son in the book. Uh, about this horse and what he's talking to him. He says, and then he thinks for a minute. He says, "I wonder why he calls him Mr. Ed." And everybody that's my age or older, in that neighborhood, have called me and just got the biggest kick out of that because they said
Yep.
that's about their favorite. Because I do that throughout the book. I reference things that if you know, you'll realize that it's what it's talking about, and you get a kick out of it. But so
I
I blend the past and the future, what's going to happen in the future and what's happened in the past, and some of the modern things. Try to blend it all together and create a good read for people. I've had people tell me they read it they took them a day and a half to read it, but they couldn't put it down. It was all night. And then other
nice.
people say, well, took me about a week to read it, but man, I loved it. And so it keeps your attention, and once you get into it, and uh, I like the way it came out anyway. And
I've had the opportunity to read a little bit at the beginning, and I'm intrigued. I'm a science fiction nut, so I
okay,
love science fiction and the experimentation on how you've played with time and talking about the impact to the earth, the science that's associated with what you brought in, as well as the storyline that you brought in. It's an intriguing story. It really is.
well, I try not to just say you invented a time machine. I tried to tell you how the time machine worked,
Exactly.
and
Yeah.
in theory, it could work that way. But
Well, the quantum physics are talking about the ability to actually
right.
be able to move ahead in time, that they can now
Well,
program supposedly so fast that they can play with time. So, who knows? You know,
well, Einstein said the closer you get to the speed of light, the time slows down.
right,
And that's a large theory of my book, where got to get close to the speed of light. Then you step out of this time dimension because time's going so slow. And there again, there's several astrophysicists and physicists that have put across that theory
right.
that
You're
you
right.
actually could do it. So I just took their theory and rolled it into something that could actually happen, maybe
Made a book. That's awesome.
in a book. And but as I mentioned, we finally got the thing on audio book, and it's on Amazon on audio book right now, and you can get to it from our website. And I don't have
So tell me your contact information. So your website is
my website is timebeforetimebook.com. It's all one word, and it's all
okay.
little letters. Timebeforetimebook.com, and you
Nice,
can get to our website, and it'll tell you most of the things I've told you on this podcast right here. But tell you a lot about me and a lot about my son and what we did, and it's got a lot of reviews on the website also that came from national reviewers and out of Los Angeles and different places, and USA Books Today and Hollywood Books both have reviewed it and gave 5-star reviews, and I've
nice,
got a couple of dozen books reviews from the book clubs and stuff that are mentioned in there, so you can get a feel of the book from looking at them. And
nice.
I just hope that anybody picks it up and looks at it and reads it, enjoys it. I mean, I think it's a wonderful book to take a plane ride with,
Yes,
fly across country. I just think it's wonderful to do that. And if you want to, you can listen to it too. So, and
very cool.
hopefully it'll be a little bit successful, and I won't have to go back to work again. But
We're not going back, so we're going to enjoy.
no, I'm not going
There
back.
you go. We're
One of the reasons I retired because I just could not stand going to the office at 8 o'clock every morning anymore. I had enough of that. And, after 45 years of that, that was enough. So, I enjoyed my job and what I was doing because I
right.
had a great deal of responsibility, and I enjoyed that. And but it was time to leave it behind, do something else. So anyway,
Awesome, Dan. So
well,
that kind of wraps up our interview. I'm looking forward to the next time we have a chance to talk. And I know
I
that
am
you're working
too.
on the second book, so
Yeah, I am, and believe me, I have a hard time doing interviews and talking to people, especially I've never met before, because I've been told I was an isolationist,
mm,
and an isolationist is not an introvert, it's not an extrovert, it's somebody that uh, could be classified almost as an introvert, but you're not, because if you're talking about the subject that you know about, you can light the world on fire. And the people that did, the industrial psychologists that did some research on me at one point in time, they followed me around for a couple of weeks, and then declared they had a new title for me, and it was called an isolationist. In other words, I didn't like being around people. I didn't like talking to people. But when I was in my environment or in my own area of expertise, I could light up the world.
Yeah.
And
Well,
I think it sound like it was unbelievable, but I still to this day have a hard time having conversations with people I really don't know about. The conversation with you here has been kind of a different deal. I've kind of opened
nice.
up a little bit here, but
Nice.
that's not usual for my forte. Now my son, oh man, he could light it up all the time. He could talk now, but
That's
anyway,
awesome.
but I am looking forward to following up and seeing how your idea of things, how it comes together, and whatever support you need from me, just I'll be there.
I appreciate it. So, just to wrap up this episode, so that wraps it up for our story episode of Authors to Authors. If you like what you've heard, please make sure that you click on comments. My website is authorjaw.com, and you can find my book and my audiobook on that feed. So until next time, keep reading, keep writing, and keep sharing those stories. See you soon.